Hello guys, I'm back from another video, and today we're talking about what if Deku was reincarnated into Genshin Impact. So, I'm gonna be, skipping some parts, mostly the parts about, Izuku and Lumine basically leaving Mondstadt to go to Liyue. So, we're gonna be moving towards, the Liyue part. So, yeah. So, in the last video we talked about how after they arrived at Liyue, they would basically see the sights and would decide to go to sleep in a normal-ish hotel. After, after the sleep, or at least after that night, they would basically start to go around Liyue and checking the sights. And apparently, this rite of ascension thing was happening. Apparently, it's an event for the archon of this, country or, nation. Apparently, the nation's god or archon was named Rex Lapis, or otherwise known as his Morax. Which, by the way, did you realize that all of the names of all of the archons are named after demons from the Ars Goetia, which was pretty prominent in fact. So I'm starting to think that maybe the next archon is probably going to be named after Lucifer or something. Not gonna lie. So either way, after, the whole Rite of Ascension thing, apparently the Archon of this, nation is dead. Yeah, and let's just say they instantly gone for, the foreigners and decide, yep, they're gonna be the criminals. So some guards would basically suspect them as the criminals, but thankfully they were saved by a mysterious person by the name of Child, or Childe, which I'm just gonna be calling him Childe because that's what I'm going to pronounce. I'm going to be pronouncing him as Childe from now on. So, don't judge me just because of my pronunciation. I just like it. And besides, Child just makes it sound weird. Child is basically kissing Lumine, which sounds super weird. So, yeah, I'm just going to call him, Childe. So, after introducing himself to, Izuku and Lumine, and after telling them that they're a part of Fatui, or at least a part of the Fatui Harbingers, which, let's just say, Izuku was not really happy about that, and basically, started going all on, oh god, foreign dictator bullshit, saying that he doesn't want to see him. Just because he's a part of the Fatui, it doesn't mean that he's bad. Sort of. I mean, in the story right now, he's sort of bad. So, yeah, after explaining that he's not really bad and just wants to help them, Izuku would basically line up and would not trust him, but still, decides to just, let it slide for now. After explaining that they can, basically, wait for a second, resolve them of their, crimes by basically bringing this talisman to what is that called? To basically meet with an adepti to basically resolve them of their crimes. And apparently, one adepti is pretty much prominent. In this case, one of the four, what are they called? And after being given this, thing, which is called a, I think it was called a tag of something. I kind of forgotten. But apparently, they need to bring it to a certain, adepti in Jiaxing, Park, or at least I think that's the name. I'm not really good with Chinese, okay? So, after, after being told of this by Kaya, they would basically leave the, the bank that they're basically in to basically, run away from the guards, which was named, Northern Bank, which is apparently, owned by the, owned by Shiznaya, or, more specifically the Fatui themselves. They would basically start to leave and would start to become a little bit hungry. So they would decide to, go to that specific adepti later. But for now, they decided to go to, a little restaurant. After arriving there, which, it was pretty comfy, almost a bit, homely. But after a while, basically, or waiting for their food, they would hear a large explosion, which sort of scared them, which, Izuku sort of is kind of like a, a PTSD victim because of, the whole war thing, between him and, Bakugo, aka the heroes and villains. And after hearing that and basically looking at the kitchen, you would see a young girl that seems to be the chef of this place. Apparently, her name was Shangling. Apparently, she's the owner of this, fine establishment, and when she, saw Izuku, she would basically introduce herself, and basically giving them their, food, and so after eating, they would basically start to leave, and apparently, there was this one patient, right? Apparently, they meet in another bed, so they decide to go for their room, and now Izuku's gonna be sleeping with Lumine in the same bed. Oh boy, this is going to be an interesting. This is going to be an interesting night for him. So yeah. So after going on to the bed, as both, not really both, more like all three, specifically, Lumine and Izuku are basically sleeping side by side, and for Paimon, she's basically sleeping in the on top of Belle's chest, which she's pretty comfortable with. But not in that way, for God's sakes, you disgusting perverts. So, yeah. So, that is basically what happened last episode. And so, let's talk about what happens next. So, after basically waking up, they would basically start to go towards Jijing Park, which is apparently where they're going to meet with this specific adepti. After arriving there, thankfully not being spotted by by the freaking guards, they would arrive there and would basically bring up the sigil of permission, which apparently that's the name, I just checked it up. So, after arriving there, they would basically, wait for a while and would start to hear the sound of clopping, almost sounding like a horse or a deer. And after looking around, they would see some sort of divine deer, each having the colors of the Geo Archon, I guess you could say. There's several, the shades of his, fur. It's almost turning into greenish to almost a brownish color to almost a, golden color. As he would say this, I am Mooncarver, the adepti of this fine land. May I ask, why do you have a sigil permission? After saying this, Izuku would say this, so you're an adeptus, or adepti. Nice to meet you, sir. The name's Izuku Midoriya. As he would bow, as he would say, how interesting. I didn't know that, wait for a second. Didn't know that the not Liyue, I didn't know that Inazuma ended the war already. As he would say this, unfortunately they didn't. And I was just born in Mondstadt, so I just came here to just move. As he would say this, I see. So, may I ask, why have you come to me, and why do you have a sigil permission? In this day and age, most people would never have these, unless if they're high-ranking officials, like that Ningguang girl. As he would say this, well, Mr. Mooncarver, well, as he would basically, explain the reason why they basically, came to talk to, Mooncarver. After hearing this, oh boy, he was pissed. He would go like, what? He would basically scream out, as currently they would hear another yelp from the bushes. As when they saw, or at least when they looked behind them, as they would see a few Liyue guards, as one of them would say this, wait, it wasn't our fault, and we didn't really mean to, we thought that you're the ones that assassinated, Rex Lapis, and as Izuku would say this, alright, how the hell do I have the ability to kill a goddamn god? Like, how? He would basically start yelling at them, as one of them would say this, hey, it was an order by Ningguang, so it wasn't our fault. As Mooncarver would say this, why did you blame them exactly? As one of them would say this, well, they were running, and as he would say this, he would basically, start, becoming a little bit pissed off, as Mooncarver would say this, just ask the other Adeptus, specifically the 3 other members of the little group that I am in, as he would say this, sure then, Mr. Mooncarver, as he would basically look back at the Liyue guards, as he would say this, and you incompetent little fools, as they would basically start shaking in their fucking boots, as he would say this, we're gonna have a chat, okay? He would basically say with a sweet little voice, but it promises fucking pain. As the Liyue guards are basically shivering in fear, as for, Lumine, Izuku, and for Paimon, they would basically start to leave to go towards the other, the other three Adeptus, or Adepti. So, after, leaving, apparently, what's his face? Mooncarver would also explain the names of the other members of his little group. One of them being called Mountain Shaper, the other being called Clown Retainer. I meant, not Clown Retainer. No, I could just imagine that. No, I meant Cloud Retainer, not Clown Retainer. God damn. Ugh. Cloud Retainer, and finally a Guardian Yaksha, which Izuku would ask, what's his name? As he would say, I don't know, I've forgotten. But Izuku would relent, and so would basically leave with, with her, aka, Limine, to go towards the other members of this specific group of Adepti. So, after arriving at, a mountain, because why not? I mean, it makes sense, after all, the guy's name is literally called Mountain Shaper, so why the fuck not? Anyway, so after arriving at the largest mountain there, they would basically start waving this sigil permission basically around, basically saying, "Hey, Mountain Shaper." After Izuku said that, a crane that seems to be in the same colors as Mountain Shaper, not Mountain Shaper, I meant, Moon Carver, or at least somewhat, would appear as he would say this. "Oh, it's quite interesting seeing you, a human, seem to have a sigil permission. How interesting. So may I ask, why have you called me here human?" As he would say this. "My name is Izuku Midoriya, by the way, and I'm here because of a certain event that happened." After explaining the whole assassination of, Rex Lapis, which, Mountain Shaper was pretty depressed about, and after hearing that they were framed because of it, well, let's just say he was pretty much pissed as well. And would also ask for the permission of basically, lifting, or at least how do I actually say it? And defending them from, basically being the ones of basically, assassinating him. Because how does a freaking person, the Traveler, even though he can technically kill a god, maybe in the future story, but either way, after hearing this, he would say, or she, I don't really know the genders either way, so, Mountain Shaper would say this: "Sure, I'll help. But, did you talk to the others, Cloud Retainer and the Guardian Yaksha yet?" As he would say this. "Well, I'm about to, so," as he would say this. "Good. Now, hope your journey will be great for you, Mr. Izuku Midoriya." As he would say this. "You too, Mr. Bird." As he would say this. What a nickname. As he would basically say that, as Izuku and Lumine would start to leave. So, even though in game apparently they need to do a ritual or something in a domain, well, I'm just gonna change it because there's no way I'm gonna do that. Because there's no way I'm going to explain how fucking domains work in the fucking story. So, I'm just going to make it instead like this. So, Izuku and Lumine would basically arrive at, a large temple with several sigils, each representing each of the elements, which I'm gonna be making Pyro, Electro, and, Geo, which after, doing, those two things, specifically, the Geo and the, wait for a second, god dang it, sorry about that, let me just change it, Geo to, instead of that, we're gonna be changing it to Geo to, Geo to, Animo, and finally, Hydro. So, after doing those three elements, thanks to the help of, Izuku using both of his, Animo and his, Hydro weapons, not really weapons, more like, his sword by creating the large, water dragon and the, ice spikes that are basically, coming off of it. And as for Lumine, she would start to, pulse energy, more specifically, the energy of the, of the Geo Archon, or whatever you want to call it. So, after doing that, the ritual would basically, start to, happen. And after a few minutes, the large-looking bird, which resembles, Mountain Shaper, would basically appear. Instead of being, the colors of, I guess you can say, like, Rex Lapis, or in this case, Geo Archon. Instead, it's colored blue, and, like, basically, like, a typical, like, like, sky colors, like, like a sky color scheme, basically. So, after arriving there, he would basically explain the whole situation with Rex Lapis being killed and assassinated, and being the ones that are blamed for it. After hearing this, well, let's just say she kind of gone overboard and saying that she's going to, destroy the entire city, which, let's just say Izuku is basically trying to calm her down. So, after calming her down, she would say, "Alright, I'm going to help you with this, especially with the whole blaming you for basically killing Rex Lapis. But I also need to talk to another member. Did you already talk with Mountain Shaper and Mooncarver already?" As they would basically say yes, as he would say this. I meant she. "Yes, good. Now, I want you to talk to the Guardian Yaksha. Apparently, he lives in an inn. Apparently, this inn is called Wangshu, or just Wangshu Inn." After explaining this, they would basically leave as, Cloud Retainer would basically start to leave, flying off into the, I guess you can say sky, going towards the meeting place. So, they would decide to try and find Wangshu Inn, which, let's just say, was pretty hard. Apparently, the reason why is because some idiots were basically just saying, "Oh, it's over there," and the other guy just goes like, No, it's over there." So, let's just say it's basically taking like an entire day to basically, it's basically like, taking an entire fucking day to basically, try and, find this Wangshu Inn thing. So, after a while, they would arrive at a large mountain and would see several stairs. Let's just say, Lumine was pretty pissed off. After hearing this, Izuku would say this: "Hey, you said that your legs are hurting, right? And you're basically still complaining about that?" As she would say this: "Yeah, why?" As Belle would say this. Not Belle, I meant Izuku. As Izuku would say this: "Well, how about I piggyback ride you?" After saying this, she would start to blush as she would say, "You don't really need to do that. I mean, I can just do it by myself." She would basically start to laugh a little bit as, Izuku would just say this: "Fine, if you want your legs to be broken." As she would say, "Fine. I mean, I'm pretty much tired already, so..." As Izuku would say this: "Alright, hop on." So, after, going on top of Izuku's, back, she would basically start, going up the stairs. After a while, basically going up the stairs of, Wangshu Inn, they would arrive at the inn. After, talking to the owner, they would explain that Zhao, which is apparently the Guardian Yaksha, is currently on top of the roof, currently just, like, doing his usual thing. Specifically, just doing nothing. Mostly just staring out into the, abyss of the night. Apparently, she's, sort of like a mother figure towards him. So, after arriving at the rooftop, they would see a young man with darkish hair with, streaks of, of animal typish colors. He seems to be, wearing some sort of mask, which kind of resembles a Oni, or at least in this case a Yaksha, which that's what Izuku thinks at least. And when he looks back, he would say, "What are you doing here? You should leave me alone. Besides, I prefer to be alone." He would basically say that whole edgelord shit as Izuku would start to think, is he Dobby or something? He would basically start to remember Dobby, which he sounds exactly like Dobby. Just imagine him as Dobby. So, when Izuku heard that, he would think, is that Dobby reincarnated or something? He would basically say to himself, as he would say, "Either way, we're here because we wanted to talk to you. You're the last adepti, right?" As he would say this: "What? Adepti? So what do you want?" As they would explain the whole situation, which Zhao was pretty much angry hearing this, that, Rex Lapis, aka, well, I prefer to call him, Zhao's adopted father, basically dead. After hearing this, he would basically start to get pissed off after hearing that he was assassinated. And apparently they were blamed for it, which, let's just say, I mean, he's not really angry about it, but it's more like he's, kind of pissed off that they're not the ones that killed him. Thankfully, he somewhat calms down and would decide to go towards the meeting place, which they would basically start to move on. But for now, they need to get some sleep, so they would decide to go sleep in the inn. After, going into the room, they would basically go to sleep. The next day. So, after, basically, sleeping in the inn, they would basically start to leave. After arriving at, Northland Bank, they would see Childe basically there, as they would say, "Hey, Childe, what are you doing here?" As he would say this, "Oh, hello there, comrades. I'm here because I wanted to ask, did you already told the adepti to basically, about the death of, as he would say this. "Oh, yeah," said Izuku, as he would say this. "Good. And, by the way, apparently they're not allowing anybody to pay respects for, Rex Lapis' Zuvia." As, after, hearing this, Izuku would say, "What the heck's a Zuvia?" As, after explaining what Zuvia is, which apparently it's a word for, God's corpse, which apparently means that, they can't pay respects for the dead body of, Rex Lapis, which, let's just say, is sort of, it kind of makes sense, but to him it sounds a bit weird. After explaining the whole thing, Chelde would say this. "Yeah, that's all, comrades," he would basically say, as he would say, "Oh, by the way, have you two gone on a date or something?" Because, as they would basically, start to blush, as Izuku would basically just say this. We're not really, as they would basically start to blush even more, as not Kaya, I meant, Chode would basically say this. "Seriously, comrades, you can't really hide that anymore. Besides, I can obviously tell that both of you like each other." As Izuku would start to look at her, as Lumine would basically look back, as she would say, "Wait, you like," as he would say, "Wait, you like," as they would basically start to blush even more, as Izuku would say this. "No, I mean, you're cute and all, but, Amber and stuff," as she would say, she would basically start to blush even more, even stuttering, as, Shode is basically having the time of his life currently. So, after a bit of teasing, he would say, yeah, and apparently we can, let's just say pay respects for his body, but I need to contact somebody for it first." As after hearing this, Izuku would say, "Who exactly?" As he would say this. "Well, apparently there's this new guy that's basically, currently in Wang Sheng's funeral parlor. Apparently his name is Zhongli or something. And apparently he's working there. And let's just say his boss, is a bit interesting. Let's just say that." As he would say this. "So we're going to a funeral parlor?" As he would say this. "Yeah, meet me tomorrow, okay?" After saying this, he would basically start to leave. After, being notified of that, they would basically start to leave, going back home. So, after arriving back home, or more specifically, a little, area where, or at least the, I guess you can say hotel that they're supposed to, live in, well, apparently something happened. Apparently some idiot decided, what should I do with this? Yes. Basically grabs the candle and basically, starts to burn the entire place down. So, yeah, they're not living there anymore. So, currently with the owner would basically, give them a full refund and basically give them back their, their Mora. After being given their Mora, they would basically try to look around, finding a place where they can stay, but couldn't find anywhere. So, after, a while basically, walking around, they would basically sit down in a little park bench, as Izuku would say this. "Well, shit." As, Lumine would say this. "Yeah, you can say that again. Why is this day getting why is this day, you know, you know, so bad today? Like, why is it super bad today, or something of that sort? Basically, something like that, as you could say this. You can tell me why. After basically, sitting down for a while now, Izuku would look around as he would see a recognizable person. In this case, Xiangling. Xiangling would say, "Oh, hello." As after seeing her, Izuku would say, "Wait, Xiangling? What are you doing here?" As she would say, "Oh, I'm just getting some herbs for my new recipe." "And what are you doing here? I thought you were gonna go back to your..." As he would say this. Well, apparently the hotel kind of burned down, so after saying this, she would say, "That's horrible, and wait, do you have anywhere to stay yet?" Or as he would say this, "Couldn't find anywhere to stay." Why? He would basically start clenching his head as she would say this. "How would you stay with me? I mean, I still have a lot of room," so after hearing this, Izuku would say, "Wait, really?" As she would say, "Yeah, I actually live somewhere nearby, so I guess you can, stay with me. I mean, you're actually pretty nice." As when Izuku heard that, he would say, "Thank you." He would basically start bowing to her as she would say, it's not really a problem. And by the way, Izuku of the, wait for a second, Izuku of the Storms, and Lumine of the, Lumine of the Light Sword. As after hearing this, one of them would say, "What?" As she would explain the, why she gave them their nicknames. Apparently, their, reputation in Mondstadt have basically, come around and basically, came to Liyue, which, let's just say, everybody was soaking it up just like, how heroes are basically being, researched and shit, just like him back in the day. As he would say, "So we're pretty much famous now." As she would say, "Yeah, pretty much. Now, I think it's better for both of you guys to go, to my house. Besides, we didn't want to have any fangirls and boys basically, I don't know, maybe like causing trouble for you." As after hearing this, Izuku would say, "Yeah, probably for the best." As Lumine would say, "Yeah, I guess so." So, after arriving at her home, which was pretty normal for a girl like her. I mean, she basically, told, like, apparently one of her stories, which she somehow told in one sentence, which apparently sums up at this. Apparently, she ate a poisonous, some sort of poisonous plant, which she didn't know was poisonous, and survived for some odd reason. And apparently when she fed that to some people, let's just say they had horrible diarrhea. Yeah. As Izuku would start to think, does she have an iron stomach or something? He would basically think in his mind, as Lumine would basically say the same thing. So after arriving at her home, and would be, sleeping in her room, which seemed to have, enough beds, or I guess you can say, like, the Chinese versions of, like, what do you call it? I don't know what you actually call it, but, just imagine, like, in the Philippines, right? There's this tradition of us basically, sleeping on the floor and basically putting a mattress, things of that sort, basically similar to that. Just imagine it just like the Chinese version or the Japanese version of that. So, after, putting up those, beds, they would basically go onto the floor and would basically fall asleep. Somehow, Izuku was basically between, Xiangling, basically, putting her entire body near his arm, basically just like, it feels so soft. She would basically start, holding on his arm, basically, for dear life, as Lumine is basically doing the same, which currently Izuku is just like, somehow God is either laughing at me or just giving this to me just because he thinks it's kind of funny. He would basically start, thinking in his mind saying, why is this happening to me? Why am I, a chick magnet? He would basically think in his mind. So yeah, after a while basically contemplating to himself, he would fall to sleep. So yeah, I'm gonna be ending this episode right off here, and so I hope you liked the video, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye bye!